everyone, in this video I'm going to show how I did this eagle drawing in pastels. So for the eagle itself I decided to use just pastel pencils. This is my preferred way of working. I do like the extra control that this has right from the very first layer. Now when I began with the eye, I am starting to first of all just focus on the shape and the size of the eye. For the pupil and the top part of the eyelid I used the black Carbothello, but the lower part of the eyelid was more of a darker brown and I switched the colours accordingly. This is really important when aiming for a higher level of realism because not all of the eye may have a black eyelid. A chocolate Labrador, for example, may have a lighter brown or a pink colour to the eyelid, and it's really crucial that we get that right. A black outline over all areas could potentially create a cartoon effect if that's not visible in the reference photo. When I started working on the iris colour, I was more cautious with this approach and I started light to dark. The lighter colours down first just was then less likely for me to run into issues with muddy layers. If I'd have started with a darker iris colour and then tried pulling in these lighter yellows, it is going to give me a very muddy look to the highlight, and I wanted that brighter iris colour to be a focal point of the eye. So as I started the feathers that are around the eye, the placement of the highlights and shadows is really important. I'm not trying to capture every single highlight and shadow, I don't have room for that on this size drawing, but I can be very specific with where those main ones are placed. The reason I'm so obsessive really about this is because the placement here of those is going to help determine the shape of the face. Where I'm starting to use this white and putting in some of those highlights, that's going to help give the shape of the eye socket. If those selections of lighter feathers were dropped too low, then again I've made that eye socket placement change. Everything here has a knock-on effect, and when aiming for that high level of realism, this does matter. Now I'm using a different paper for this. I'm actually using the Clairefontaine paint on paper. My normal go-to paper is Clairefontaine Pastel Matte. With the Pastel Matte I have the ability to have many layers. With this smoother paper that's not so much of the option here, so I needed to be very careful with the layers that I added. The reason I used this paper is I wanted to create a drawing that did have more of a simplified layering process because I didn't want to spend a huge amount of time on it. This is a really worthwhile exercise to do if we are feeling a little bit burnt out, and that's also why I didn't work on a larger scale. I was able to get this done within 3 to 4 hours, and that really is a huge motivational boost, especially when we are also aiming for that high level of realism and achieving that at the end. However, when working with this paper, I still used the same concepts that I would with Pastel Matte. If I wanted the vibrant colours in, and I wanted to make sure that I had that beautiful saturation, I started with that colour. I can then tone it down and darken it, but making sure I had that colour in initially is something that I'm very passionate about with this kind of approach when working with pastels. Because pastels do blend so beautifully, it's one of the advantages of this medium. The colours and layers can get lost if the blending or the application process is not quite right. Starting with that vibrant colour first just gives us a bit of a head start with that and less likely to have issues happen. So moving on to the importance of a base foundation, this is also something that regardless of the paper I'm using is one of my most important stages. When working with this paper, I again did have to be realistic with the number of layers that I knew I could add, so I was being more deliberate with the colours that I'm using first. However, across any paper, if there is a bright highlight, I'm going to start with my lighter colours initially, just so that I know I've got that in place and I can always darken it later if needed. But the softness of my base foundation, I don't want to compromise on. I don't want there to be any harsh edges because it also then makes the details added on top look harsh as well. So when I'm working with my base foundation, I'm focusing on what I've already mentioned previously with the position of my highlights and shadows. I do want to get the feather direction established and also starting to indicate any feathers that are clumped together. The reason I chose this eagle photo to work from is because the feathers looked very soft. There wasn't any wiry look to the feathers or real definition. The feathers were more softer with that clumped together in the mixture of the layers. I couldn't look at this area of the feathers around the eye and pinpoint one specific feather. And I actually wanted that to be a focal point in the real-time version of this tutorial, which, if that is of interest, is all linked in the description below. Because when drawing fur or feathers, it is a natural tendency to try to add in what we think should be there. If there is an extra level of softness in that reference photo and the reference photo is good quality, we don't want to be forcing details that we can't see, because the feathers will end up wiry and it will have too much texture. It then won't resemble that bird as much as it should. There are, of course, exceptions where the eagle might be on more of a blustery day and the feathers are therefore being separated by any parts of the wind. Maybe the head position is a little bit more angled to the side and the feathers on the neck are separated from the body. In those times, you might have to have more detail, more defined lines. But for something like this, the softness here was one of those top priorities as well. Building my layers from here, I wanted to make sure that I first of all had the layers dark enough. I've mentioned about starting light to dark, but it's also about making sure that's not taken to the extreme and then the contrast isn't where it needs to be. If I start using the lighter pencils for my details and they don't show up, it's first of all making sure that my base foundation is dark enough. If I just then pick a lighter pencil to make the details more obvious, then there is a risk that the animal's going to end up overall too light. So initially, my first question is whether or not the base foundation is correct. Is it soft enough? Is it dark enough? If there are areas of highlights, there's no need to darken them. But for midtones and shadows, if the colours there are not dark enough, then it is going to have a massive impact with how much realism we can achieve later on. And this is why values, I feel, are more important than the exact colour. You could have an eagle in cooler light, more of an overcast day, and those colours are going to be different. It might look like the beak has more of a lemon yellow rather than a warmer sunflower yellow. But the values of those colours are going to be what gives it the shape and that realism. If the darks aren't dark enough, everything's going to have more of a flatter appearance. There's not going to be as much three-dimensional shape to the face. And I always imagine drawing like sculpting. I'm trying to create the impression of a 3D image on a flat surface of paper. And in order to do that, it is all with the contrast. And that's why working in grayscale has no ounce of colour, yet they can look like black and white photographs if the values are right. And as I've been building the layers on the beak and I'm starting to use this darker brown to enhance those shadows, this is going to help make the beak look more of that three-dimensional shape. It's not the colour, but I'm adjusting the values to help give this more shape and form. Gradually, this beak will start to look like it's getting closer to the camera. This will get even more refined when I then come back in with my highlight and brighten that very lightest highlight on the centre left side of the beak. The values here is what's done that. Yes, I've got a mixture of more yellows with a little bit of orange to help give that impression of the warmer colours, but it's the values here that have helped to establish the shape. When working on the neck and the body, this is where I started to visualise more of a larger area, but first of all trying to get some key areas established. Where this gets much darker, this is going to help make the beak look lighter because I'm darkening up what's next to it. If you have a highlight in the eye, you've used your lightest white pencil and you physically can't get it any lighter, but you feel like it still looks dull, then it might be an indication that you need to darken up what's next to it. I've already spoken about the benefit of darkening layers underneath a highlight, But if it's also that the highlight is a bit subdued, it might be that what's next to it needs to be darker. So by darkening the pupil or the eyelid, a shadow in the iris itself, that will help to make the highlights and the reflection in the eye much lighter. When I'm working with the feathers here for the neck and the body, the areas are much softer and the feathers are larger. So not only am I focusing on my layering process that I've already mentioned in this video, but I am starting to lengthen my pencil strokes. The pencil technique is really important when drawing fur or feathers because this is also going to help build the shape of the animal. Where the feathers get longer and where they're shorter is going to not only help with the texture, but this is helping to isolate maybe the shoulder, where the wing is, where the neck starts to attach to the body. If you've got a dog portrait and the fur looks shorter over the collar at either side, that might be where the collar is pushing up that fur, creating a little fold of skin, and that's why the fur length looks different. Trying to work out why this happens, it might help to then really establish the structures under the skin and help to then bring that level of realism that we want. But ultimately, as long as we're making sure that we are getting the lights and darks in the right place and focusing on when we need to lengthen and shorten our pencil strokes, that there is going to help follow that reference photo more accurately. I do also have lots of videos here on YouTube where I'm drawing more defined, detailed white fur, and there I focus more on the pencil technique that's required for that. Whereas in this section of the drawing, it's the softness and not forcing too much detail, which was the priority. I'll link a couple of the white fur tutorials in the description below if they're of interest. The other thing that I want to mention, because I get a lot of questions about this, is how do I select the colours that I'm using based on the colours in the reference photo? I don't complicate this process at all. I use a very simple colour wheel system that I can refer back to if needed, but I do demonstrate this in the real-time tutorials, and I do explain it thoroughly in this version of the Bold Eagle. So if the real-time versions are of interest, as mentioned, I have linked that in the description below. One other thing that I just want to refer back to here with this drawing process is look at how I'm darkening this side of the feathers, because I didn't feel like I had my contrast right, and I knew that I had to make those adjustments before I started with the details. Adding in that slightly darker colour with that brown has helped to shape the side of the face. It almost now gives it the impression that it's curving away before it then starts to drape down to the lower part of the neck. When I'm building in this kind of adjustment, I can do this so easily with pastels, but it's important that I've also then maintained the softness. So if I work with a lighter or darker layer to adjust the base foundation, I don't want to have any harsh start and stop points. And as I'm working with darkening this section of feather here, you'll notice that yes, I am darkening it. It's much darker than anything else I've got so far, but that I am also going to take my lighter or mid-tone pencils and soften the areas in the middle. So where the white feathers meet those darker feathers, I don't want this current harsh edge that I've got. I need to make sure that I've got some softness there before I start with the details. It's also very easy at this last stage. I might only have an extra half hour before I can call this finished, and I might then start to subconsciously cut corners and start to rush. If I feel like I'm aware I'm making some kind of mistake, whether or not it's that I've created a pencil stroke and I feel, why did I do that? Or I've started to lose my softness, my edges are a little bit too harsh, I'll actually put the pencils down for 10-15 minutes, have a moment to rest my eyes, and then come back to the drawing. In some situations, I'll leave it overnight and then come back to it the following day. The times away from the drawing, where we are taking a bit of a breather, are just as important as the time spent creating the artwork. If we keep on working with that drawing in that mindset where we are a little bit tired, we're starting to get frustrated, then we are going to end up creating more mistakes. So with this, I want to be very aware when I know I need to take those breaks before I start working on the next phase. And most often, once I've created a base foundation, I'll automatically have a little 10-minute breather before I start with the details. So I'm not having to ever put that pressure on myself that I need to get this done completely in one drawing session. At this point in the drawing process, when I am now working on the feathers that are sitting on the very top, it might be that I work with a white pencil, but then I'll go back with a slightly darker colour to add more contrast, more variation. I don't want to get in this mindset here that it's the last layer, I'll just use one pencil. Because although all of these feathers are technically white, white is never actually white. There's going to be a lot of colour that's reflected into them, the midtones, those shadows. It's going to help give a huge amount of depth. When I'm trying to build up this kind of feather texture, I'm also not wanting to draw every single feather. I know I mentioned this in lots of videos, but when working on a smaller scale, if I try to add in every feather that I can see, I am going to cover up the layers underneath. So when I'm working on something like this, which is a 6x8, it's a really nice size to still capture a high level of realism in a shorter space of time. But I need to make sure that I'm not trying to force and cram in every little bit of feather or fur that I can see. When I'm starting to work in these kinds of layers for those top details, I usually want to pick the ones that jump out to me first. So if there's a cluster of feathers, something that's particularly bright, I want to get that in. That's going to help with my overall contrast. But if I then get too obsessed about drawing every feather, I need to work larger. So it's always about being realistic with what kind of detail I can add. If I wanted to push this level of realism even more, I could do if I worked on pastel matte paper. At this point, this is probably, I could have maybe room for 1 or 2 additional layers, but the values here, I can't get much brighter than what I've currently achieved. Whereas on pastel matte, with that beautiful tooth of the paper that has and that unique surface, I could have carried on adding another 10 layers if I wanted to. And that's also why it's not just the size of the paper, the technique, but it's the paper that we're using. If we are using a paper that is not able to allow for the techniques that we want, then it's not our ability or the techniques, it is the paper that's holding that back. However, that being said, for this specific portrait and my goals, this paper ticked all of those boxes. So I do hope that this video has been useful. If it was, I'd be very grateful if you could give it a like and a thumbs up. It makes a huge difference to my channel. I do also upload a couple of videos to YouTube every week, so if you would like to get notified of that content, then don't forget to hit the subscribe and the bell button. If you've got any art related questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. I'm always happy to help if I can. If you've got any questions relating to this paper, I also have another video where I did a kitten tutorial on this paper for the very first time, and I share more of my thoughts on that process. I'll link that video in the description below if that is also of interest. But I'm going to be uploading another video next week, but if you would like to draw along to the real-time version of this, then that is also linked in the description below as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching.